There's someone you haven't spoken to in months, maybe years, yet they occupy more space in your mind than the people sitting right next to you. You check your phone hoping for their name, knowing it won't appear, and still you can't stop thinking about them. And yet, this person occupies more space in your consciousness than people you talk to every single day. What does that mean? Is it love? Is it obsession? Is it some spiritual connection that transcends the physical world? Or is it something else entirely, something you've been afraid to look at? I want to talk to you today about one of the most misunderstood experiences in human relationships. This phenomenon where someone lives rent-free in your mind and heart without any actual communication happening between you. And I need you to listen carefully, because what I'm about to share with you might make you uncomfortable. It might challenge beliefs you've held for years, maybe decades. But if you're willing to stay with me, if you're willing to look honestly at what's really happening, you might finally understand why you've been stuck in this pattern. And more importantly, how to free yourself. You see, most people think this experience is romantic. They think it means something beautiful, something destined, something cosmic. They've watched too many movies where the hero pines for the heroine across great distances, and in the final scene they reunite and live happily ever after. But here's what nobody tells you. Those movies end before real life begins. They don't show you what happens when you spend years thinking about someone who isn't thinking about you. They don't show you the opportunities you miss while you're mentally and emotionally unavailable. They don't show you the version of yourself you never become, because you're holding space for someone who left. Let me be very clear about something. If someone wanted to communicate with you, they would. We live in an age where connection has never been easier. You can reach someone on the other side of the planet in seconds. You can send a text, an email, a voice message, a video call. The barriers to communication have essentially disappeared. So when someone isn't communicating with you, it's not because they can't. It's because they're choosing not to. And that choice is communication in itself. It's the loudest message you'll ever receive. But you're not listening to it, are you? You're listening to the stories you tell yourself instead. The story about how they're busy. The story about how they're going through something difficult. The story about how the timing isn't right. And beneath all those stories is the one story you're really telling yourself. The story that says, if you just wait long enough, if you just hold on long enough, if you just love them enough from a distance, something will change. Let me ask you something. How long have you been waiting? 6 months? A year? 5 years? At what point does waiting become something else? At what point does hope become denial? You need to understand what's actually happening in your brain when you can't stop thinking about someone. When you think about a person repeatedly, especially when there's emotional charge attached to those thoughts, your brain creates and strengthens neural pathways. Every time you replay a memory, every time you imagine a conversation, every time you wonder what they're doing, you're literally rewiring your brain to think about them more. It becomes a habit. A mental groove that gets deeper with each repetition. And here's the dangerous part. Your brain doesn't distinguish between real connection and imagined connection. When you fantasize about this person, when you replay past moments, when you imagine future scenarios, your brain releases the same chemicals it would if those things were actually happening. Dopamine, Oxytocin, Serotonin. You're giving yourself a chemical reward for thinking about someone who isn't in your life. You're literally getting high on your own thoughts. And like any addiction, you need more and more of it to feel satisfied. So you think about them more. You create more elaborate scenarios. You find more reasons to keep them in your mind. And the cycle continues. But let's go deeper, because there's something else happening here that you need to see. When you hold someone in your heart and mind without any real communication, you're not actually loving them. You're loving your idea of them. You're loving the version of them that exists in your imagination. And that version is perfect, isn't it? They never disappoint you in your mind. They never let you down. They never reveal their flaws, their limitations, their ordinary humanness. In your mind, they're frozen in the moment you last connected with them, or worse, in the moment you wish you'd had with them. But real people aren't static. Real people change, grow, make mistakes, have bad days, say the wrong things. Real people are complicated and contradictory, and sometimes deeply frustrating. The person you're thinking about right now is not the person who actually exists. They're a character in a story you keep writing and rewriting in your head. And you know what the saddest part is? You might be missing the real people who are actually in your life, the ones who want to communicate with you, the ones who show up, the ones who are trying to build something real with you. But you can't see them clearly because you're looking through them at a ghost. You're energetically unavailable. And people feel that. They feel when you're not really present. They feel when part of you is somewhere else with someone else. So they don't invest fully either. And you end up in a painful irony where you're lonely while surrounded by people because you've made yourself unavailable for the very connection you're craving. Now, I want to address something important. Some of you are thinking, but this feels different. This connection is special. You don't understand what we had. And maybe you did have something special. Maybe there was real love there, real connection, real chemistry. But you know what makes love real? Presence, action, communication, consistency. Love isn't just a feeling you carry around in your chest. Love is what you do. Love is how you show up. And if someone loved you the way you're loving them, they would find a way to be in your life. They would communicate. They would reach out. They would make an effort. The absence of that effort is your answer. And I know that hurts. I know it's not the answer you want, but it's the truth you need. Let me tell you what's really happening when you can't let someone go, even though they've clearly let you go. You're avoiding something. You're using this fantasy, this obsession, this hope as a shield against something you don't want to face. Maybe you're avoiding the grief of accepting that it's over. Maybe you're avoiding the fear of being alone. Maybe you're avoiding the work of building a real relationship with a real person who has real flaws. Maybe you're avoiding looking at why you attracted this situation in the first place. What wound in you is attracted to unavailability? What part of you believes you're only worthy of love from a distance? What did you learn about love growing up that taught you this is what it looks like? These are the questions that will actually set you free. Not the questions about them, not the analysis of their behavior, their psychology, their reasons. Your freedom lies in understanding yourself. And here's what you'll find if you're brave enough to look. You'll find that this person being in your mind all the time is not about them at all. It's about you avoiding your own life. It's about you avoiding your own healing. It's about you avoiding your own growth. Because as long as you're focused on them, you don't have to focus on you. As long as you're waiting for them, you don't have to take action on your own dreams. As long as you're holding space for them, you don't have to risk being vulnerable with someone new. This obsession is a hiding place. And you've been hiding for too long. Now, let me talk about the spiritual side of this, because I know some of you are thinking about soul connections and twin flames and all of that. And I'm not going to tell you that deep spiritual connections don't exist. They do. But here's what I've learned in decades of studying consciousness and human behavior. A true spiritual connection doesn't torture you. It doesn't leave you in limbo. It doesn't require you to abandon your own life to honor it. If you have a genuine soul connection with someone, it will find a way to express itself in reality, not just in your mind. And if it doesn't, if that person has chosen to walk away, then the spiritual lesson isn't to wait for them. The spiritual lesson is to let them go. The spiritual lesson is to trust that what's meant for you won't require you to betray yourself to have it. The spiritual lesson is to understand that your wholeness doesn't depend on another person. You are not half of a soul waiting for your other half. You are a complete soul having a human experience. And sometimes that experience includes loving people who can't or won't love you back. That's part of being human. But what you do with that experience determines whether you grow or whether you stagnate. So let me ask you directly, what are you getting from keeping this person in your mind? What secondary gain is there? Because I promise you there's something, maybe it's the safety of never having to risk real intimacy. Maybe it's the identity of being a romantic, a believer, someone who loves deeply. Maybe it's the excuse for why your life isn't where you want it to be. Maybe it's the drama. Because if we're honest, there's a certain intensity to this kind of longing that can feel more alive than ordinary life. Whatever it is, you need to identify it. Because until you understand what you're getting from this pattern, you won't be able to break it. And breaking it is urgent. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when they finally come back, now. Because every day you spend thinking about someone who isn't thinking about you is a day of your life you don't get back. Every month you spend emotionally unavailable to real connection is a month of potential love and growth you've traded for a fantasy. Every year you spend waiting is a year of your one precious life you've sacrificed to someone who didn't ask you to and probably doesn't even know you're doing it. Is that really how you want to spend your time here? Is that really the story you want to tell about your life? Let me share something with you. The moment you decide to let go is the moment everything changes. Not because they come back, they might not. Not because you immediately find someone new, you might not. But because you reclaim your energy, you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your life. And when you do that, something remarkable happens. You become available for what's actually meant for you. You become present to the opportunities that are right in front of you. You become open to connections that are mutual, reciprocal, real, and you discover something you may have forgotten. You're actually quite interesting and valuable and worthy all by yourself. You don't need someone to validate your existence by thinking about you. You don't need someone to complete you. You are already whole. You just forgot while you were busy holding space for someone else. Now, I want to give you some very practical guidance, because philosophy is beautiful, but you need tools. First, you need to stop feeding the obsession. Every time you check their social media, you're feeding it. Every time you drive by places you used to go together, you're feeding it. Every time you replay old conversations or imagine new ones, you're feeding it. You need to starve this thing. And yes, that means conscious effort. It means catching yourself and redirecting your thoughts. It means creating new neural pathways by thinking about literally anything else. It means filling your time with activities that demand your full attention so your mind doesn't wander. Second, you need to feel the grief. Really feel it. Stop trying to bypass it with hope or spiritual bypassing or positive thinking. You lost something. You lost the potential of what could have been. You lost the connection you had or thought you had. That deserves to be grieved. So grieve it, cry about it, be angry about it, write about it, talk about it with someone you trust, but don't get stuck in it. Feel it fully so you can move through it. Third, you need to get honest about your patterns. Is this the first time you've been obsessed with someone who wasn't available, or is this a pattern? Because if it's a pattern, there's deeper work to do. You need to look at your attachment style. You need to look at your childhood experiences. You need to look at what you believe about love and worthiness. And you might need help with this. There's no shame in working with a therapist or counselor who can help you understand why you keep creating this experience. Fourth, you need to redirect your energy toward yourself. All that mental and emotional energy you've been spending on them, spend it on you. What do you want to create in your life? What dreams have you been putting on hold? What relationships have you been neglecting? What parts of yourself have you been ignoring? This is your invitation to come home to yourself. And fifth, you need to practice presence. Be here now, not in the past with your memories, not in the future with your fantasies. Here, now, in this moment. Because this moment is the only moment you actually have. And it's where your real life is happening. The person sitting across from you at dinner deserves your full attention. The project you're working on deserves your full attention. The sunset you're watching deserves your full attention. Stop giving your present away to someone who's in your past. Now, here's something else you need to understand. You might not stop thinking about this person immediately. Thoughts are like trains passing through a station. You don't have to get on every train. So when a thought of them comes, acknowledge it, there's that thought again, and then let it pass. Don't engage with it. Don't elaborate on it. Don't create a story around it. Just watch it pass and bring your attention back to what you're actually doing. Over time, the thoughts will come less frequently. The charge will diminish. The hold will loosen. But only if you stop engaging with them. You have more power here than you think. You're not a victim of your thoughts. You're the awareness that witnesses them. And awareness can choose where to focus. Let me also say this. Forgiveness is going to be important. Not forgiveness of them necessarily, although that might come, but forgiveness of yourself. For all the time you spent waiting, for all the signs you ignored, for all the ways you abandoned yourself while hoping they'd come back, you were doing the best you could with the understanding you had. But now you have new understanding. And with new understanding comes new responsibility. You can't unknow what you now know. So what are you going to do with this awareness? Are you going to keep making the same choices? Or are you going to make different ones? This is the moment of power, right here, right now. You get to decide who you're going to be from this point forward. And I want you to really consider what's possible when you free yourself from this pattern. Imagine waking up and your first thought being about your own life, your own dreams, your own day ahead. Imagine being in a conversation and being fully present, fully engaged, not half listening while part of you is somewhere else. Imagine meeting someone new and being genuinely available to explore that connection without comparing them to a ghost. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing someone who values themselves enough not to accept breadcrumbs or silence as a form of love. That person can be you. That person is you underneath this pattern. You just have to choose them. You have to choose yourself. And I know that's scary, because choosing yourself means letting go of the hope that kept you company. It means accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it were. It means stepping into the unknown without a guarantee of what comes next. But here's what I can guarantee you. Staying stuck is the only real failure. Staying stuck is how you waste your life. And your life is too valuable, too precious, too short to waste on someone who has chosen not to be in it. You deserve reciprocal love. You deserve consistent communication. You deserve someone who chooses you as clearly and definitely as you choose them. And you won't find that person while you're holding space for the wrong one. Let me tell you something else. The person you can't stop thinking about has moved on with their life. They're not sitting around thinking about you every day. They're not agonizing over whether to reach out. They're living their life, making their choices, moving forward. And you deserve to do the same. You don't owe them your loyalty in their absence. You don't owe them your emotional fidelity while they're giving their energy to someone or something else. You owe yourself the chance to be happy. You owe yourself the chance to be loved well. You owe yourself the chance to build a life that doesn't revolve around someone who isn't in it. This is your permission slip. Let go. Not because you don't love them, but because you love yourself more. Not because the connection wasn't real, but because you deserve a connection that exists in reality, not just in your mind. Not because you're giving up, but because you're choosing something better. You're choosing your own peace. You're choosing your own growth. You're choosing your own life. And that choice is the most loving thing you can do. For them, yes, because holding on to someone energetically can keep both of you stuck. But more importantly for you, because you deserve to be free. You deserve to be present. You deserve to be available for the love that wants to find you. And it can't find you if you're hiding in a fantasy. So here's what I want you to do. After this conversation ends, I want you to sit quietly for a few minutes, and I want you to say goodbye, not to the person, to the fantasy. Say goodbye to the story you've been telling yourself. Say goodbye to the hope that's been keeping you stuck. Say goodbye to the version of love that requires your absence from your own life. And then I want you to say hello. Hello to yourself. Hello to your life as it actually is. Hello to the possibilities you've been unable to see. Hello to your future. This is how healing begins. Not with a grand gesture, not with closure from them, but with a quiet decision you make alone. A decision to value yourself enough to stop accepting less than you deserve. A decision to trust that something better is possible. A decision to show up for your own life. And I promise you this, when you make that decision and you follow through with action, everything shifts. Not overnight, not magically, but slowly, steadily, surely, you'll find yourself thinking about them less. You'll find yourself caring about the things that actually matter to your life. You'll find yourself open to new experiences, new people, new possibilities. You'll find yourself becoming the person you were always meant to be. The person you couldn't become while you were stuck in this pattern. And one day, you'll realize you haven't thought about them in weeks. And it won't feel like a loss. It will feel like freedom. Because you'll understand that they were never the point. The point was always you. You learning to value yourself. You learning to trust yourself. You learning to love yourself enough not to accept unavailability as a form of connection. That's the lesson. That's the gift. And that's what this experience has been trying to teach you all along. Now, I want to share something with you that might surprise you. When you finally do let go, when you finally free yourself from this pattern, you're going to notice something interesting. You're going to see how much energy you were using to maintain that fantasy. Think about it. All those hours spent wondering what they're doing, imagining conversations that will never happen, replaying memories on an endless loop, checking their social media even though it hurts every time. That energy was yours. It belonged to you. And you were spending it on someone who wasn't investing any of theirs in you. When you reclaim that energy, it's like suddenly discovering you've been carrying a heavy backpack full of rocks and you didn't even know you could set it down. The relief isn't just emotional. It's physical, it's mental, it's spiritual. You'll feel lighter, you'll sleep better. You'll have more capacity for joy, for creativity, for connection with the people who are actually present in your life. And here's something else that happens when you let go. You stop betraying yourself. Because every day you accept silence as a form of relationship, you're telling yourself that you're not worth real communication. Every day you make excuses for someone's absence, you're teaching yourself that your needs don't matter. Every day you wait for someone to choose you while they're clearly choosing something else, you're abandoning yourself. And that self-abandonment, that self-betrayal, it damages you in ways that go far deeper than the loss of the relationship ever could. It erodes your self-trust. It weakens your boundaries. It makes you question your own worth. And the longer it goes on, the harder it becomes to remember that you deserve better. So when you finally choose yourself, when you finally say enough, you're not just ending an obsession. You're healing a wound. You're reclaiming your integrity. You're remembering that you matter. Let me tell you about something that happens in relationships that most people don't understand. When someone truly loves you, when someone truly wants you in their life, you don't have to wonder, you don't have to analyze their behavior, you don't have to decode their silence, you don't have to make excuses for their absence. Because love that's real shows up, it communicates. It makes itself known. It doesn't hide in ambiguity. It doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't make you feel crazy for wanting basic connection. So if you're confused about where you stand with someone, if you're constantly wondering what they're thinking or feeling, if you're always the one reaching out and getting nothing back, that confusion is your answer. Clarity feels clear. Mutual love feels mutual. Reciprocal connection feels reciprocal. Anything else is you trying to make something work that the other person isn't even trying to build. And you can't build a bridge by yourself. You can stand on your side hammering away, but if there's nobody on the other side doing the same work, you're just building a platform that goes nowhere. I also want you to understand something about the stories we tell ourselves, about timing. How many times have you thought, maybe it's just not the right time? How many times have you told yourself that if circumstances were different, if the timing were better, if things were easier, then they would be with you? But here's the truth about timing. Timing is just another word for priority. When something matters to someone, when someone is truly invested, they make it work regardless of timing. They find a way, they communicate even when it's hard. They show up even when it's inconvenient. They let you know you matter even when life is chaotic. So when someone uses timing as a reason not to be with you, what they're really saying is that you're not enough of a priority to work through the challenges. And I know that's hard to hear. I know you want to believe that if you just wait long enough, the timing will be right. But the timing will never be right with someone who doesn't prioritize you. And the timing will always be right with someone who does. That's how you know the difference between an excuse and a reason. You also need to understand something about closure. A lot of people stay stuck because they're waiting for closure. They're waiting for that final conversation where everything gets explained and wrapped up neatly. They're waiting for the other person to tell them why it ended, what went wrong, whether there's any hope for the future. But here's what I've learned about closure. Closure is something you give yourself. It's not something someone else can give you. Because even if they sat down and explained everything, even if they gave you all the answers you think you need, part of you would still want more. Part of you would still have more questions. Part of you would still be looking for a way to change their mind. Real closure happens when you accept that some questions don't have answers you'll ever hear. Real closure happens when you stop needing their explanation to move forward. Real closure happens when you decide that your peace matters more than understanding every detail of why they left. And that decision, that internal shift, that's something only you can create for yourself. So stop fighting the lesson. Stop holding on to the pain. Stop sacrificing your present for a past that's gone and a future that isn't coming. Be here, be now, be alive, be available for the life that's trying to happen for you. The life that can only happen when you finally, fully, completely let go of the person who is always in your heart and mind without any communication. Let him go. Not with bitterness, not with anger, but with gratitude for what was, acceptance of what is, and hope for what can be. And then turn around and walk toward yourself. Walk toward your life. Walk toward your healing. Walk toward your future. Walk toward the love that's waiting for you on the other side of this lesson. There's something profound that happens when you finally release someone from the prison of your thoughts. You realize that you were the prisoner all along. They were free. They moved on. They made their choices. You were the one locked in a cell of your own making, visiting the same memories, rehearsing the same conversations, holding the same hope that kept you from living. And the key to that cell was always in your hand. You just didn't want to use it because using it meant accepting something you didn't want to accept. But acceptance isn't giving up. Acceptance is waking up. It's seeing what is instead of what you wish would be. And when you finally see clearly, when you finally accept the truth, the cell door opens and you walk out into a world that's been waiting for you to rejoin it. And here's what you'll discover on the other side of this letting go. You'll discover that you're stronger than you thought. You'll discover that you can survive without them. You'll discover that your worth isn't determined by whether someone chooses you. You'll discover that love is abundant, not scarce, and that the right person won't require you to shrink yourself or wait in silence or accept breadcrumbs as if they're a feast. You'll discover your own company is actually quite enjoyable. You'll discover that your life has meaning and purpose beyond any relationship. You'll discover that you are, and have always been, enough. Not because someone validated you, but because you exist, because you're here, because you matter. That's the truth waiting for you. And it's a truth that will change everything. The person you can't forget has already forgotten to remember you. Your life is happening right now, not in the fantasy you keep replaying. The moment you let go is the moment you become available for what's actually meant for you. And that moment is now.